Hello, thank you so much for joining me as I show you a couple of different ways you can decorate Christmas tree cookies that's perfect for those new to cookie decorating and beginners as well as children. This cookie cutter is from Wilton and you can find it pretty much at any type of grocery store or hobby store or even online. I have outlined the outer edges of the cookie with a thicker consistency royal icing, and now I'm filling in the center of the cookie with a flood or thinner consistency royal icing. You can find royal icing recipes all over the internet, and you change the thickness or thinness simply by adding water. Once I have filled this in, I use my scribe tool to flatten out the top layer of this icing. If you don't have a scribe, you can use a toothpick. That works just as well. Now I'm taking flood white icing, which is a thin consistency icing, and just doing little zigzag marks to create a garland on this tree. Once I've done that, I am going to scrape through that garland right in the center with my scribe tool to give it that garland shape. If you mess up an area once you've added your white flood icing, you can always fix that by scraping that out with your scribe, as I'm going to do right here on the left side of the cookie. Then I added a little bit more icing to fix it and give it the overall look that I was trying to achieve. Add another dot and scrape through that to keep that garland look. Our next cookie is the exact same cookie cutter, flooded exact white, red, and a lighter shade of green flood icing to add little polka dots just right on top of the flood icing as it's still wet. Then I allow that to dry. And then after it's dried, I take a thicker outline, light green consistency icing, just making another little garland or string of lights design over the top, trying to avoid the little dots that I've added inside the wet on wet design. I'm using a thicker consistency outline for the tree stump and then a red outline consistency to add little dots to look like little red lights. Our next cookie is also from a Wilton cookie cutter. It is a winter mitten, and I am outlining and flooding with the same consistency icing for this cookie. It is a little bit thicker flood than what I had used for the Christmas trees. So it will take a little bit of more manipulation with our scribe and shaking the cookie to flatten out this base flood, but it's definitely workable. I like to use a single consistency at times because then I don't have to mix an outline consistency as well as a flood. So here I am just smoothing out the surface, and then I'll poke my scribe into the cookie and jiggle it, and we're ready for our next step. I'm taking colors of red, white, and pink here. These are flood consistency icing, and just making stripes across the mitten, leaving room between each color so that the base color can show through. You can use whatever colors you want on this. This pink is a little bit of a thicker flood as well as this white. The red was a thinner flood. As you can see, the red is spread out more than the other colors. You can use a flood or outline, and then simply take your toothpick or scribe and scrape through the icing from top to bottom. I'm kind of curving it a little bit to keep in line with the shape of the mitten. Up, down, and I'm cleaning my scribe off between each pass with a paper towel. Then we will let this section dry before adding the bottom part of the mitten here. I am using a outline consistency pink icing. I wanted the thicker consistency so I can be left with some added texture on the bottom part of this glove. I will use my scribe to smooth it out somewhat and also shape it, level out the top line area of where this pink goes, and you'll see that happen here in just a second. But I do want the textured look of it, so I do not smooth it out on purpose. And once I get it how I want it to look, I am done. So this is our wet on wet mitten cookie. And our last cookie is another similar design to the mitten, a wet on wet Christmas ornament using all one consistency pink icing yet again. And I'm going to start flooding from the center out on the circle. Circles tend to overflow their icing easier than any other shape, so I like to start my flood in the center, and then as I'm smoothing it, I will bring it to the outline. And again, I'm pretty vigorous with my scribe, and I will shake my cookie once I get it pretty level on top just to completely flatten it out before we move on to the wet on wet. Here I am now taking my red and alternating red-green icing, flood icings, making stripes across the cookie, leaving room in between the stripes for the pink to show through, and these are both flood icings. Next, I will take my scribe and scrape from top to bottom, going all the same direction this time as compared to the mitten, and I'm wiping my scribe with a paper towel between each pass to keep it nice and clean. Next, I take my green and just do some little dots at the ends of where my scribe left off, finishing up the top part of this ornament with the same green, and now we will be done. I hope that you enjoyed this cookie decorating tutorial. Please subscribe to learn more.